If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio. One word answer. Is modern life making us uglier?
Yes.
Modern society has made life easier, but it may be affecting the way we look. We visited orthotropic specialist Dr. Mike Mew to ask, is modern life making us uglier?
I think that's so true that it's difficult to really grasp the whole thing properly. We are anything but normal. Wearing clothes, washing your hair, brushing your teeth, all the food we have and the availability of food that we have is not normal. We suffer from the comforts that were created for ourselves. I don't think we can get rid of all the creature comforts we've created. It would be, we've created them to make life easier. We live longer than we did, we have a more fulfilling, rewarding lives than we did, we get more done, and yet it's killing us. It's my personal opinion, but I think that this effect on our facial form, which I refer to as craniofacial dystrophy, so the modern life is making our facial structure look less attractive. I think about 20% of the population are affected most significantly by craniofacial dystrophy. They're most downswung. So they're going to look less good. They're going to live less long, and they're going to be less intelligent. What you hear now, what I'm saying, which sounds so strange, it sounds so alien to how we're thinking. It's a shock. What I've just said here it's highly controversial, but I believe it's true. And these ideas, I believe, are going to permeate through the whole of society within the next 1 to 2 generations. It interests me that most people really want to believe that the way their facial form has grown is genetic. And yet we do look similar to our parents. There's no denying that. And when I try and suggest that there is a significant environmental influence, people just don't want to buy it. So it goes beyond, it goes to the level of belief. People want to believe that. And I think one of the things behind this is if your face hasn't grown perfectly, not only do you not have perfect facial form, but it's your own fault. I think the 2 most significant environmental factors underlying the growth of the facial form would be the muscle effect. And careful, I'm not saying strength, I'm not saying absolute usage, it's an effect. So it's an undefinable thing that I haven't really been able to dissect down into yet. So I'll just call it muscle effect. And the other one is the mandibulolingual posture. So where you leave the mandible and the tongue, where this complex tends to rest. These are the 2 most important factors. So put simply, if you've got great muscle tone, and you can see I've got good muscle tone, you can see it, and you know people with square faces like mine have good muscle tone. People know that already. So if you've got good muscle tone from usage, so that you have good muscle effect, you tend to have a squarer face. I mean, that's pretty well covered in research anyway. It's not absolute new news to people. The other one is the posture of the mandibulolingual posture. So if you hang your mouth open and your tongue is low, that has an effect on facial form. The face just drops. So that if you have both of those, so you have your weak muscles from this weak modern food that's so calorie rich, you don't need to do any effort to gain your calories, easy calories. Then also you hang your mouth open. If you do both of those, your face lengthens. And as your face lengthens, it becomes narrower, it becomes shallower. At the cross-sectional area here, there's less cross-sectional area, it reduces, leaving you with less space for the tongue, less space for your airway, and less space for the teeth. And of course, this area where you've got your tongue and your airway is what I call the vital space. This is reduced. And, well, what's the most important thing in your life after your next breath? I think that's pretty high on the list. And as soon as your airway becomes affected, you then respond. The two things that seem to be affecting us the most is the change in the diet, the consistency of the diet, the easy calories. The other thing that seems to be changing is the people getting allergies. You get a blocked nose, you can't breathe through your nose. What are you going to do next? Well, you can either pack up and die, or you can drop your tongue, open your mouth, separate your lips, and breathe orally. And that will then determine the influences on facial development. And what worries me is many young people in a modern environment have multiple prolonged events in the first year of their life where they can't breathe out of their nose. So these people have yet to learn to walk, and they are learning a habitual mouth open posture. The next most important factor after muscle effect and mandibulolingual posture is some problem is going on in the interruption between the natural progression of swallowing conversion. So normally we go from a suckle to a swallow. We make this transition from a suckle to a swallow, and something seems to be getting in the way of this. One of the likely suspects is breastfeeding, or lack of. The other likely suspect would be the weaning. Solid food would have been given from about, I would say, as early as about 6 months. When an infant can reach out and grab something, it would then put something in its mouth. And I don't think that's changed. So from about 6 months old, you're going to try and feed baby some solid things. But now we would feed a purified version to baby. There were a lack of blenders 10,000 years ago. Whereas now we're introducing this very purified food. We're introducing it, you feed baby doesn't even pick the stuff up themselves. And you don't need to change from a suckle to a swallow with the type of food we're giving. You can suckle baby with baby foods designed to be suckled. Do I think that different diets such as vegetarian and veganism are going to have an effect? It's difficult to say, because if you're going to have a raw food diet, yes, I think that would be fantastic, because you're going to go through tough food all the time. But if you take exactly the same diet and you boil it hard, no, it's going to be different. They've done some interesting study with rats where they've given one rat hard chow, and they've given the other rat exactly the same chow that's been soaked in water overnight. So it's exactly the same food they're getting, exactly the same nutrients, and yet one grows with a very different craniofacial structure to the other one. So it's not so much the elements in the food, it's the toughness of the food. Technology seems to have had an interesting influence on how our faces are growing. As I mentioned, soft diets, as I mentioned, allergies, as I mentioned, change in swallowing patterns. Those are clearly having an effect, and that's related to technology. The other thing in technology is, of course, how people are holding their phones. Because I think that's where we've gone from looking at television, which wasn't so good, to looking at desktop computers that was getting worse, to looking at tablets and phones. And this really seems to be a slide down in sort of in body posture. It's making our body posture worse. When we talk about the craniofacial complex, we talk about the cranium and the face, but craniofacial, because it's focusing on the face, is this sort of this section here, right, that's bolted on to the front of the skull. You've got the sort of the skull plates at the back. You've got the sphenoid bone that's the centre of the skull, which is the bottom front of the brain case. And then you've got this area bolted onto the front. And of course, this area, really, you've got your maxilla and you've got your mandible. And these two bones, the maxilla, with my fingers are the teeth, the mandible, my fingers are the lower jaw teeth. These are your face. You know, the top edge of your maxilla is up here. I mean, it's going into the zygomatic process as you go sideways here, but let's just call it the maxilla, because the zygomatic process supports the maxilla supports the zygomatic process. So this is your maxilla. I think beauty is in the maxilla. Give someone a good maxilla and they've got a great looking face. If you've got your mandible and maxilla, if you remember, the mandible it hinges. You know, the jawbone just opens and closes. If the maxilla's further up and further forward, the mandible will just close further. It's like a door. If you take the stop out of a door, you can get a door to overclose. So if you take the maxilla and you move it up and further, the mandible will just swing further round. So the mandible, in a way, is slave to maxilla. People with good jaws, their maxillas are further and forward. So the mandible can close further. And people who've chinless, well, the maxilla's down and back. How to gain hollow cheeks. This is something everyone really wants, and they want to understand this. And it's important to understand, go back to what is this area of face? What's underneath this area of face? Well, this is the buccinator muscle. So when we're born, we suckle. And our buccinator, our cheeks, we're cherubic. And that's from big buccinators. So I remember my sister's second, the biggest muscle in that child, the most active muscle, was his buccinators. That's all he really needed to do. You know, you often talk about babies being a eating, crying, pooing machine. And that part of the eating was his buccinator muscles. That's what he needed to eat. And the idea is we go from an infantile suckle to an adult swallow. And we need to make that transition. But now we give kids food that they can suckle. You know, they're weaned onto food that you can suckle. So why need to change? So most people I see, I reckon it's about 85% of the population, are still doing a modified infantile swallow into their adult age. And of course, if you use a muscle, it gets bigger. I think what we forget is the importance of not using a muscle. Letting a muscle get smaller by not use. When I was a kid, we put legs in plasters for a proper length of time. If you broke a leg, your leg was in plaster, I don't know, about 12 weeks. And you would have the plaster taken off, and what would you see? You know, you would see this guy who had one dwindly little leg. So if you don't use your leg, all of the muscles waste away. The whole thing wastes away, and relatively quickly. So what are the three worst things in society that are affecting us? Which is an interesting question. It's not been posed to me before. I think probably one of the things is the food we eat. You know, it's just so soft. It's so calorie rich, and it's mechanically insufficient to generate effort. You need to eat tougher food. So I think it's got too many calories. It's got too little masticatory effort. The next one, I think, is just it seems almost the ergonomics of modern lifestyle. It means, you know, we're sitting all the time. We computers are often too low. We're using handheld devices or tablets, and there seems no need or stimulus to have good body posture, good drive to having good body posture. And I think that it's the whole. We used to have an ethos. It used to be normal for teachers to tell you to sit up straight. Where teachers don't do that. It would seem inappropriate for teachers to do that now. And the third factor, I guess it must be something to do with, breathing out your mouth. Having an open mouth posture, not really trying to... That inner core of you trying to work on your body posture, the slouching. How bad will craniofacial dystrophy get before we start waking up to this problem? I'm hoping we're at the low point now. I'm hoping, these glaring problems. I mean, there's sleep apnea, ADHD, ENT problems, bad body posture, scoliosis, kids having surgery, kids relapsing after surgery. I think one of my biggest worries is retention. We're now recommending permanent retention across the board. Well, this means you're permanently holding the teeth out of their balance zone. Well, you can do that with a retainer, but you can't hold the bone and supporting tissues permanently out of their balance zone. I mean, we're storing up just a big problem.
I'm going to leave this bit in if you can hear me. But one word answer: is modern life making us uglier?
Yes.
If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio.